A Saudi Arabian sheikh has noted a study from a religious organization indicating that women in Saudi Arabia shouldn't drive because it'll damage their pelvis and their ovaries. These women have to bear children. I mean, that's the only thing they're good for. So we can't have them driving in cars. That's terrible. Now, of course, this study has absolutely no scientific research or scientific merit. But the sheikh did say that, yeah, of course, physiological science and functional medicine studied this side and found that it automatically affects ovaries and rolls up the pelvis.
Rolls up the pelvis. I love that.
How do people in America get pregnant? This is crazy. This is why we find for women who continuously drive cars, their children are born with clinical disorders of varying degrees.
Well, look, he's being very scientific. It's varying degrees of disorder, okay? So, I mean, take your chances. You roll your ovaries down the pelvis, and you never know what comes out. Look at America. Look at all the freaks over there. Okay. Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world that doesn't allow women to drive.
I know, it's incredible. I mean, you have so many other countries that severely violate human rights and especially women's rights. Yet Saudi Arabia is still the only country that doesn't allow women to drive. I mean, women have been protesting in Saudi Arabia for the last 4 years for the ability to drive, and some have been arrested, some have dealt with lashings as a result, and I hope they continue to fight back, but I just find it laughable that anyone in Saudi Arabia would take this study from a religious organization seriously. No one's buying it. I mean, why would they even try?
So several things on that. First of all, the person you were alluding to, Shaima Justiniya, who's 34, she was sentenced to 10 lashes. They whipped her for the grave offense of driving a car. But that was all the way back in 2011. Okay, so just 2 years ago that happened. And then Saudi Arabia, amazingly, only finished 130 out of 134 countries on gender parity. Jesus, who's worse on gender parity than Saudi Arabia? So that's amazing. But so in order to veil this, if you will, in the cloak of science, so that they could say like, oh, it's a scientific study, pelvis rolling, ovaries gone, damaged, right? They brought in former professor at King Fahd University, so you know he's not biased, Kamal Subi. And Kamal Subi is the guy who says, oh yeah, the ovaries, oh, they're fucked. Well, in order to get pregnant, I guess they would have to be. Anyway, so this is the same alleged professor who earlier had testified that, well, if you allow women to drive, obviously we will have increases in prostitution, pornography, and homosexuality. And that's usually how it works. He's got a point there. Whenever I see a woman driving, I lean over to Bob and I say, you guys want to make out? I mean, how insane is that? If you let women drive, well, obviously, dudes will turn gay.
No, but think about how easily emasculated and how terribly weak the men in Saudi Arabia are. I mean, I'm sure there are men in Saudi Arabia that are in favor of allowing women to drive, but I'm talking about the religious leaders that are so scared. They think that if they give their women a little bit of freedom, they're immediately going to do crazy shit because they're so unhappy with the relationships they have with these pathetic losers.
Yeah, they think they'll turn to prostitution, they'll turn to pornography, because obviously they wouldn't want the guys, they want porn.
Right.
And then it will lead to more divorce. There was another thing by alleged Professor Subi. Okay, and then ultimately they'll turn to other women. Because they're like, well, obviously since we're pathetic and we can't ever keep a woman, unless we keep her literally wrapped up and literally in the home so she can't even run away, escape to the mall, okay, well, obviously she'll leave us because we suck. And that's what the leadership of Saudi Arabia is saying. Look, of course, among the young in Saudi Arabia, as in a lot of countries, they rebel against this because they find it out as outrageous as we do. And they have to live in it, not just the women, but the men as well. But this is, to couch it in science is hilarious.
It is hilarious. And just one final thing that they like to fearmonger about. Within 10 years of the ban being lifted, the report's authors claimed there would be, quote, no more virgins in the Islamic kingdom.
This is science. I'm not sure they understand what the word virgin means. You see, when what happens as soon as the baby's born, they're like, 10 years ago we let somebody drive. Okay. How could there be no more virgins?
And it's absurd on two fronts. Yes, because of what you're saying, and also because, I mean, just the idea that being able to drive is going to convince women to go out there and just have sex with everyone, and that's the only worth that they have. If they're not virgins, well, then they're worthless, right? That's the only thing that you should emphasize about them.
And one final point. Apparently they believe that they're wrong, that if they do not restrict your freedom, that you will choose an alternative path. If they believe that if you're completely free, then you would follow the path that they have laid out, then they shouldn't be worried about cars or what kind of clothing, etc. Women would naturally be just as religious as Saudi Arabia wants them to be. They would follow in the path of God, etc., right? Apparently you think, well, they're not going to do that because obviously we're wrong, and so we can't allow them to have any freedom. Because if we do, then they'll realize we're jackasses and they won't listen to us anymore.
Can you imagine not being able to go anywhere unless you have some sort of like chauffeur or some guardian who like takes you to where you need to go?
And look, super final point, that's exactly the subjugation that they desire. That everything that a woman does, she must check with either her husband, her father, or her brother. Like, so you must get permission for every single thing you do. And to these pathetic guys that are in the leadership in Saudi Arabia, they think, well, I mean, that's the only way we can get them to ever love us, right? Like, if we gave them a choice, they obviously wouldn't choose us.
Oh, it's so weak.